the District of Maine. After nearly 2 centuries of encroachment on Wabanaki homelands and retaliation from the Wabanaki Confederacy and Allied French troops to the north, English settler colonialists had finally established port towns up the Maine coast to Machias. Now, the region that had been rocked by a century of conflict from the Anglo-Abenaki Wars was bracing for a new impact. The war for independence was imminent. The American Revolution in Maine would test boundaries and forge new alliances, as colonists and indigenous alike struggled with boycotts, shifting allegiances, and battles on land and sea. Both British and Patriot forces recognized Maine's tactical position between British-held Canada and the American colonies. This put Maine at the center of conflict over resources, potential supply routes, and strategic eastern ports. Before Benedict Arnold established his reputation as America's most famous trader, he was a well-respected general for the Continental Army. In September of 1775, he embarked on his most ambitious assignment, a bushwhack through the Maine wilderness to lay siege to British-occupied Quebec. Arnold estimated the expedition would span just 180 miles and take no more than 20 days to complete. This estimation would prove to be disastrous. On September 25th, Arnold and 1,100 men and a group of indigenous guides set out from Fort Western along the Kennebec River. To avoid damage from rocks and rapids, men often had to wade in the river, pushing and pulling the boats. These wet conditions destroyed their gunpowder, spoiled their food, and caused the men to develop dysentery. At portages, the 400-pound boats were hoisted out of the water and carried on the backs of the rapidly weakening men. On October 11th, they arrived at the Great Carrying Place, a 12-mile stretch that bypassed an unnavigable section of the river. Already on half rations and battered by rain and snow, they still had around 300 miles left of their journey. On October 24th, a group of 300 men turned back against Arnold's directive to continue. The rest carried on. On the brink of starvation, the men resorted to boiling their leather shoes and eating candle wax to stay alive. On November 9th, 45 days after they started their journey, just 600 men on death's door arrived at the St. Lawrence River, where they were able to recuperate amongst the friendly French and indigenous inhabitants. In December, General Montgomery arrived, after successfully defeating the British at Montreal. Although he brought additional men and supplies, the attack on Quebec failed. Montgomery was killed, Arnold wounded, and over 400 men taken prisoner.